See, Wendell, I got you on that one again, didn't I? Yeah. All right, guys, we back, man. Welcome back to the podcast. I got my partner back with me, man, my main man, Mr. Wendell Holmes. And, man, we have another special guest. Wendell, introduce our special guest, Mr. Lewis. Go ahead on.
Well, Justin, we have with us today, I don't even know where to start.
Well, he's got a lot of accolades. He don't want to talk about it. Look, Lewis, like, I don't know if I want to talk about it.
Oh yeah, man. He's just an all around great guy.
Because I asked you, I was like, look, man, we need to add more people to the conversation. You said,
Sure.
I got the guy.
And
you said, man, let me get him in here.
Let me get him. And when I called him, he didn't hesitate.
I know. I'm thankful for that, too.
We have a retired Shreveport chief of training, Chief Lewis Johnson.
Come on.
Also former cattle commissioner.
Come on.
Business owner. Football announcer.
Yeah, Independent Stadium, man. Come on.
Yeah.
You hear that voice already? He said, right.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh, yeah. And the list goes on and on. He does local theater. Man, it just goes on and on and on.
And he's not at your church. He's not at you right around the corner. He said, what close are you? What close?
2 blocks away, Greater Zion Mission.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 2 blocks away.
I teach the men's Sunday school class.
That's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Lewis, man, I'm just thankful you're here,
and
man.
he's heavy, too, with that.
Is he?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, this is
why. He's shaking his head.
Look, because how long y'all known each other?
Man, I've known Chief, probably 30 years.
Wow.
30 plus years. When I was a little boy, I used to see him.
So he's been trying to straighten you out for 30 plus years.
And I'm telling you, he does well, and every now and then I take a step back.
I understand.
And he got to jump back in there.
But, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Well, man, I am pumped that you're here, Lewis. Thank you, man, for taking time out of your schedule. Because when I called him, I was like, hey, Lewis, do you mind? He's like, oh, man, I'll do whatever. I was like, well, 10 o'clock, I'll do whatever you. Just a servant's heart, and I'm very, very appreciative of that, man. Thank you.
I'm very glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, this is what's going to be cool today, because we're going to continue the conversation that me and Wendell, we started, and then we had in the message last week. But we want to really just try to continue. As I've said before, I just want to continue to listen and understand and try to help our people understand, because as I was telling you right before we went on air, I was a little disappointed when I looked around at some of the local churches, and it didn't look like a whole lot of people wanted to address the issue from the pulpit. They're kind of like shying away from that. And I understand it's a little controversial. People are having a little issue with that. But if the church don't stand up and we don't have these conversations and provide outlets for that, then I don't know who's going to lead that. So that you were willing to means the world to me, man, because Wendell's my guy, man. We've known each other for a long time, too, 12, 13 years, something like that.
Yes.
I've been working with him over there, but he was like, man, you got to get Lewis. Lewis is the man. I said, all right.
Well, I commend you. I commend you for recognizing and identifying that the issue is a real issue that will not go away without at least being addressed. So I think that the two most important things to begin to address the issue is what you've done, which is both identification and communication. So identifying that there is obviously an issue that affects everyone, and then to start dialogue. So I really commend you and the Simple Church for doing that.
Hey, listen, man, we are a long way from where we want to be, but I am honestly trying to evaluate how to proceed, and I'm leaning on Wendell and my other friends, and now you, Lewis. I'm like, all right, man, talk to me. Help me. Now, we were just joking even before we go on Tuesday, because we had a lot of mutual friends that we didn't know we had, but John Fulco being one of those.
No doubt. John is my hero.
Oh, man.
I often say that, but really, John Fulco and I, we worked together literally for 30 years.
Wow.
And John was an example in every way for us.
Wow.
Everything that he did, he was the best at it.
Man, I love it.
I mean, as a firefighter, he was very, very good. Paramedic, very, very good. Just overall instructor, he's a mentor. So I'm proud that John's both our friends.
Oh, yeah. And if I get on a plane, John's flying my plane.
Yeah, he's a good pilot as well.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
We had to go down to New Orleans. We were going down to help a children's hospital.
Okay.
So we had some kids that were in there and that were going on. So it was at Christmas. And so I told John, I was like, man, he said, oh, you know I got you. Let's go. So we go. This is just a little behind-the-scenes story, too.
Mm-hmm.
And the weather's getting a little dicey, but we've already committed. We're in or whatever. And I said, John, he said, don't you worry or whatever. And, man, that guy flew that plane and put us in and out of there in the safest, I felt like I was, in the right hands.
Man,
and after that, I was like, man, John, because Greg, like you said, I grew up with Greg. We used to play some music back in the day together and all
Yeah,
this.
he was with Exit back in the day.
Oh, that's my boys.
Yeah, he and Danny Orton.
Danny Orton's one of our good friends. I actually helped introduce him to his wife.
Are you serious?
That's the truth.
He's had great success.
I am going to take credit for it.
Great success in Nashville. He's just a good, talented guy.
Yeah. So that's why I love, and that was where my connection, all these firefighters were, through Danny and Greg and everything else. So anyway, we have some mutual friends, and how long did you said you were at the Shreveport Fire Department for
34 years.
Wow. Man, this is talking about
a long time.
And that's serious service, man.
Yeah, I was 34.
You were barely even born, Scott.
3 years old.
I ended my career as the director of the Fire and Police Academy. So oversaw the training and the hiring and the recruiting and that type of thing.
For both Shreveport, for the police and the fire department?
No, it's a mutual academy. So on the one side, we have the police department, which we work very closely with.
Right.
And then on our side is the fire department. But public service and public safety, we train in the same place. So that's what makes this conversation so unique for us in that respect.
Yeah, and that's why I'm thankful that you're here, is because we need to hear that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And we need to continue to talk about that. So that's what we want to do. Let's get into it, Wendell.
Well, first, remember you said you had to clear up some stuff from last week.
Good point. All right, so the last and this is going to be the tough part, but this is true. So me and Wendell talked. So he went to Captain Shreve, I went to Southwood. I graduated 87. He graduated much younger than that. He's just a baby over here. So I had made the comment that they bust Ridgewood to Oak Terrace back in 1983. So that's how they called it desegregation, which I still don't really fully understand all of that terminology, but we moved from South Shreveport to Oak Terrace. There was some racial trouble, all right, because they really, again, the black kids weren't happy we were there. The white kids weren't happy they were moving. It was, it was a mess. But then I said, when we got to Southwood, I said, well, it kind of all leveled out. I mean, I felt like we got along. And so my friends listening to the podcast were like, you a fool. Because, no, it didn't level out. We were still having issues at Southwood. And then Wendell said, what'd your friends say?
Yeah, I got a phone call, and the guy said, man, did you not remember the big racial fight? I said, I didn't then, but now I do.
Yeah, and I was the same way. It's like, I don't know if I blocked it out of my mind or I just didn't think about it, but I honestly thought, well, we did all right. So
absolutely,
it's been a long history, even in Shreveport-Bossier, of us trying to work through this. So I want your opinion, Lewis. I mean, I want to talk about it. You can go any direction you want to talk about it. We're just trying to seek to understand and open up the conversation. So if there's something you go, man, here's the way I see it, or here's some things we need to talk about, that's why I'm thankful you're here. So, y'all take it away, man. Give me something, Wendell, that you didn't cover, or Lewis, maybe you'll tag off of that. Y'all talk about it.
Well, man, Lewis, he grew up, we both grew up in Cedar Grove.
Yeah.
And Lewis is a little bit older than me, but he had an opportunity. They went to Captain Shreve, way before I did. So
why are you trying to make him sound like he's old?
Well, of course,
Scott just said he looks like the youngest guy.
Hey, that's the truth.
Yeah, he really does.
He says he's 60, but I don't believe that. He looks 40.
Well, at Shreve, we were during the time of segregation as well. I came from Eden Gardens, which was a all-black school. And when we got to Captain Shreve, we integrated with Uri Drive, which for the most part was a white school. So it was my first introduction to being in the classroom with white students. So it was pretty unique in that respect. But it was a natural change in that respect. So we had all those challenges that goes with it. But as it relates to our conversation today, I think the first thing that I want to establish is my respect for police department and for law enforcement and the need for law enforcement. Amen. And I'd like to acknowledge the vast majority of police officers who every day come to work with one intention, and that is to do the best that they can to protect and serve our community. Right. So that is, as I discuss today, I want to do it from that vein, recognizing that the police department is a needed entity in our society.
Absolutely.
It prevents chaos, and that they are men and women who do a great job in our society. So when we start looking at the concerns or the injustices that do exist, we don't want to use a broad brush in that respect. And I think far too often that happens.
That's so true, Lewis. You and I have a lot of similar friends. One of my dear friends now plays guitar, bass for us at the church every week is at the Shreveport Police Academy. So I've spent a lot of time. Greg Walker is out
Really?
there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Greg, and he did the intro for the song last week and was talking about, he actually started the intro to our music on, as an officer, I'm undone, I'm frustrated, because they got to hear, too, that
Yes.
you're exactly right. I mean, the vast majority are people
man.
trying to figure out and do it the right way. And I think that's the thing that I think here's what I have found from the white community, okay? As soon as you say anything to try to help people understand the black people's point of view, they immediately try to jump to, well, you must be against the police.
Right.
Or you must be against this group
Of
or that
course.
group. I'm going, no, I'm not.
Not at all.
Not at all. And that's why I appreciate you saying that from the beginning, is because if you try to talk about that, it comes across for some reason, and I'm trying to understand that, oh, well, you must be against them. So
And that's one of the problems,
Yeah.
Justin, is assumptions.
yeah.
People assume all the time.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, man, I'm nothing but all of my friends. I mean, we have dear friends, and we've been committed to
Right.
those relationships for a long time. I've ridden out with Shreveport Police many times.
Absolutely.
Because I want to even understand their position and their situations. So that's the thing that I appreciate you saying. But I don't want them to think that it's not valid to have an opportunity to hear from the black people that are under the oppression.
I appreciate that so very much, and I appreciate you having both myself and Wendell on from the position that in the fire service. Believe it or not, the fire department, in my opinion, except maybe the military, is one of the most diverse occupations there is. And I'm a diversity trainer, and one of the things that we teach is that within the fire department, when I was introduced to the fire department as a young man, 19, 20 years old, as a firefighter, I not only worked with white guys, I lived with them.
That's right.
24 hours a day. You know what I mean? So they were just not just coworkers; they were brothers.
That's right.
You know, and not only brothers, but I've worked with firefighters who were willing to give anything in order to make sure that myself and other firefighters were safe. So it's a very unique position, a unique fraternity in that respect. Someone says, or we say, that in foxholes and house fires, all men are brothers.
Amen.
You know, it doesn't, if we're in this foxhole, it doesn't care what color you are.
Help me.
One thing that we do know is that we're in it together.
That's right.
And so the fire department taught me that. And in teaching me that, it taught me that there are clearly some things that we have that's different, but there are a whole lot of things that we have in common.
Yes.
And so we work together, we live together, we eat together, we pray together, and so the fire department is unique in that position.
Absolutely.
I don't think there are many other careers that can say that. One of my counterparts, who was a police officer, I don't know, I think law enforcement, we work with each other every day. I say, yeah, you do. But do you live with them?
It's a big difference.
24 hours a day. Are you with them more than you're with your family?
Do you hear them snoring? Is what you're asking.
Did we ever?
Yeah, you're like, man, look, I gotta put up with their snore and everything else.
No doubt about it, man. So it's taught us just a great appreciation in that respect. And of course, there were some challenges in that respect.
Sure.
I was amongst the first black or African American firefighters that were hired in Shreveport. So it was new to me. Whereas my counterparts, their dads were firefighters, their granddads, their brother-in-laws, and that
That's
type
right,
of thing.
yeah.
We were literally first generation. So I had no exposure. I didn't know anything about it. And it was not easy to get into it, And so there were some things that had to be done in order to give us an opportunity, which was all that we were asking for. Just give me a chance.
Yeah.
I'll take the civil service test. I'll make above a 90 on it.
Right.
I'll pass the background check. I'll pass the drug test. Just give me a chance. But until that time, none of those things mattered.
And that was the 70s, roughly.
That's right. Yeah, well, I came into the very early 80s, but it was in the
80s.
mid 70s before blacks were even hired on the fire department.
Justin, I had the opportunity to be a part of African American. He was a pastor at the time, but he always wanted to be a firefighter, and he was denied because it was back in that time when blacks weren't allowed, and
It was he who got me the application.
it was he. I'm gonna let him tell you that story.
Yeah, Lewis, tell us that story.
Well, he was just our mentor. His name is Dale Johnson.
Okay.
And Dale was for many years, he was a Sunday school teacher before he became a minister. Came out of the military, great military career, great family man, very established. And when he came in, he went down because he wanted to be a firefighter. And they were honest enough to tell him that they were not, they encouraged him to go apply for the police department because they were not comfortable or were not ready to hire black firefighters.
And what
yet.
year is this, Lewis, roughly?
Yeah, it had to be early 70s.
Okay.
Early 70s. And so he got past the age, but he encouraged myself and others in order to have that opportunity.
Wow. It's a little hard. Every time I say this, I mean, I've talked about it in church before, but I'll put up an image because I was born in late 60s,
Of course.
69,
Okay.
kid of the 70s, teen of the 80s,
Uh-huh.
then moved on. That really wasn't my experience. And I had, obviously, some racial tension.
Uh-huh.
But to think of what you guys went through and how much more difficult it was even going back further. And as I said in the sermon, I said this past week, my grandparents were racial. They were racist. I mean, it wasn't good. They would say things, whatever. My parents kind of turned them that corner from me of going, we ain't gonna do that.
Right.
You're going, and so we begin to turn and then obviously I'm trying to turn the corner even harder with my kids, and making sure that even though culture may do something or what's going on, but it's shocking to me that it's that late in our history.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, absolutely none was hired in the in the 70s.
Wow.
Just would not, just wasn't happening.
So what made you go, I want to be a fireman?
I appreciate that. I was working at a grocery store. I was going to high school, delivering groceries at a grocery store, AP to Faddis.
Oh, yeah.
And I would go down to Central Station, and I would bring them dinner at the end of their shift. So I come in, and these guys they might order barbecue sandwiches or order milk or whatever, and I take it in. And these guys are pretty much my age. They're hanging out. You know what I mean? They're playing ping pong. They're working together. I'm like, hey, this looks pretty cool to me. So I asked, what do I need to do in order to do this? And so I was told given the instructions to go take the test and that type of thing. And that the then Chief Dallas Green,
I remember that name.
would frequent the store pretty often as well. So I spoke to him, took the test, did well, and that type of thing.
So at that time, though, do you remember how many black men were on the fire department?
I would venture to say that there were certainly less than a dozen.
Wow.
Less than a dozen. And we did not get hired in numbers until the 80s, and then it was being forced by the Justice Department. So there was a decree that says, okay, guys, enough is enough. You've got to hire some now.
So let's talk about that, because I don't know that everybody fully understands all that. And there's probably on the white side, they don't like that, or they feel like that it was unfair. Help us, to understand why.
It's a nearly uncomfortable discussion even for me.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, but it's just the truth. It's the truth. So with that being said, imagine if you would, when I took the civil service test, you records for show, I made a 96 on the civil service test. A 96. Okay.
What was required, Lewis, at the time?
75.
75.
So 96 I smashed it.
Yeah.
Okay. But prior to that, it wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter what you made. You're not going to be hired. Okay. So with that being the case, I was given the opportunity. And when the Justice Department came in and there was a justice decision that says now you must hire African Americans, you must do it in this percentage or whatever. There were many people who were offended by that, who had some concerns about that. But the answer is that the only reason it was done, because otherwise it was obvious that it would not happen otherwise. I was sitting in on a conversation at the fire station as a young man, and some of the white guys were concerned about things like affirmative action and things like that, of which, there are varying opinions. Mm-hmm. And because at that point you are now hiring African Americans, they say there's no need for that anymore. You look, hey, you did a good job. You're a paramedic. You've passed everything. You've had a fair shot. That type of thing is what was said. But really, the conversation wasn't for me; it was for someone else who couldn't quite address it.
Right.
And so I was called into the conversation. Lewis, don't you agree that there's no need for that anymore? I mean, it's fixed now. Why would you give someone else an advantage in that respect? And I said respectfully, if you can understand those who are uncomfortable, if you are in a process in which you followed the rules, you did all the things you're supposed to do, but you were denied simply because of your race, is it reasonable to expect a organization or a group or a society that had to be forced, governmentally forced to do that which is right by regulations? Is it reasonable to think that if those regulations go away, that they will do the right thing? So you can make your own decision on that. Mm-hmm. So the question is there a need until we do what is right, then something or someone intervenes just for fairness' sake? Yeah. Nothing other than that. And that's the thing I think myself and Wendell wants to express. I don't want you to give me anything extra.
Sure.
Don't give me this for this reason or for that reason. Give me a fair shot and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Give me a chance to take the test
level playing field.
And see what happens. Give me an opportunity to pass the drug test and let's see what happens.
Right.
We were not allowed that or were not afforded that until, a different time in history.
And Justin, that guy that he told you about, the Mr.
Dale.
Johnson, man, when he got the chance to see Chief Johnson and some others promoted, and when they made him an honorary firefighter and they gave him a helmet.
That's awesome.
Man, he put that helmet on and he wore it the rest of the evening. And it brought tears.
Because it was a dream.
Yeah, it brought tears to a lot of people's eyes because he never, he was never given the opportunity to become a fireman.
As the chief of training, we had a program and we bought him out and made him an honorary firefighter.
I think
awesome.
CJ was
Chief
getting
Henderson,
promoted. Yeah, was getting promoted.
That's right.
See, the reason we got to have the conversation is I don't think people want to have the conversation.
Yes.
I don't think they even want to think about it. They don't want to believe that that's true.
Right.
When the only way for us to know that is to hear that and be forced to look at that a little closer.
And I think with the current situation that we have, I think as it relates to the first thing establishing is that we believe and we support law enforcement.
Absolutely.
And that the law enforcement does a great job. So I think that needs to be said. Also, I think it needs to be said as it relates to non-African Americans. There are just millions and multitudes of white citizens who support and embrace that which is right and willing to make sacrifices to support and protest and that type of thing as well. So that's very important. But I think the thing that is most chilling, if you were walking in the shoes of a African American, is that now when you see a video of a African American being, mistreated by law enforcement, and there are some who say, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe that." That's what some would say, but you would say when you see that.
Oh man, it would man, that could have been me.
Yeah, but it's not new to me.
Yeah.
Throughout, we've always grown up knowing that to be the case.
Yeah.
But cell phones and cameras have been around in the last 8 years, 10
Right.
years. Okay, but that type of treatment maybe is just started when the cameras came out. How reasonable is that to think that these type of atrocities that we see, this person being pulled to the side of the road and being mistreated for no reason, but now we've got it on camera. Maybe it just started. It didn't just start.
No.
It's documented now.
Absolutely.
So that makes a difference, and it gives others some type of insight into what a part of our community has dealt with for generations.
Yeah.
Literally for generations. So now you see this on camera, that this person is literally being mistreated or, for whatever reason by law enforcement, but that's not new.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I'd heard Dr. Tony Evans. You may be familiar with
Very
him.
familiar with him.
Yeah. So Dr. Tony Evans, I watched him the other night. He pulled his grandkids and his children into the living room, and Priscilla Shire, who again is his daughter, was videoing it, and she went live to show everybody what was happening because he had pulled all his kids into the living room and he told stories of him growing up and the oppression and the interactions he had, so that they would know this is not new.
Right.
Just as you're saying, Louis, like, hey, this your grandfather, it happened to me. But then he was saying of the responsibility to, as you said, respect police officers and respect the authority, but at the same time find a way to let your voice be heard, because this is our chance possibly to help America be better.
Yes.
To help our churches be better, to
Right.
help our people. And as Christians, the responsibility, this is what I keep going back to. What really aggravates me, Louis. Now again, I have my own issues. I'm a sinner saved by grace, and I'm working on it.
We thank God.
But whenever people try to separate the issues and act like you can, as a Christian, I don't really need to get involved in that. It doesn't line up. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I can't just know this is going on and go, well, let me just go preach another series. Let me just find some other thing to talk about. I got to go, this is happening
Yes.
in front of my eyes, in front of our eyes, and we are one race.
Yes.
We come all from the same two people, and God says that over and over in Scripture. We are all together. He said heaven will be full of different nations. But it's like we almost don't want to act like on the white side at times, like, well, I know, yeah, I hear you, but. And I'm like, no, but.
That's right.
I just had a conversation with a white friend this morning, and he said, what I'm tired of hearing, because he was talking about on his side, he's at work and he's going, and he goes, I'll hear them go, yeah, but. He said, I'm tired of the but. Like from his white friends.
course.
It's like, so I get it, and that's why without these conversations and hearing from you and giving you the voices and the ways for us to understand, which that's why I can't say it enough. I know your heart, man. You're pro-police, you're pro-fire and community. But even in the midst of that, we do have to go, yeah, but we've had a problem. And we're working through that.
I'll tell you another example, Pastor, is that I've been very blessed to not necessarily have had as many concerns or encounters for whatever reason. But Dr. King said a couple of things that, and I hate to be, but I just can't. My daughter was doing an interview on yesterday, and she quoted him. Dr. King says that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Everywhere.
So that means that even though you may not be being affected by it, I might not be affected by it. I mean, no one has hit me.
Yeah.
No one has mistreated me at this moment, at this time. But the fact that injustice exists, if we do not speak against it and do something to correct it, then the justice that you are experiencing is threatened by it.
I agree. 100% I agree.
And lastly, he says, from a Christian perspective, he says that darkness cannot drive out darkness.
It's the light.
Only light can do that. And he says that hatred cannot drive out hatred.
Only love, man.
Only love can do that.
I put that in the sermon last week,
Come
by
on,
the way.
man. And
Because you got to.
It's the foundation of who we are.
And
it is, so when we're looking for the answer, we know that Christ is the answer.
He is the answer.
Which is why he tells us to love our neighbor
That's right.
as ourself.
Yeah, and somebody that you can look up and listen to what he said, and we've listened to him recently, is Miles McPherson. You may remember him as well. He's a African-American black pastor on the West Coast. He has what he calls the third option. And he wrote a book on it, and the whole point is it's the Jesus option. Because there's the right and the left, and
Right.
they think this, and they whoever.
Of course.
But there is the third option, and
Sure.
that's what
Third
we're.
option.
And his kid is a police officer.
Okay.
His family has a history of it. He goes, so this idea that I'm not against police officers.
Yes.
I'm not for putting them down or belittling them no. That's not. I'm trying to tell you that we all have to figure out how to get to a place to where there is real change.
That's right.
And so as Christians, as believers, and that's what he's saying, is like we have to be instigating. Now that's why I love Wendell, and again, I told them we've got to figure out more ways to serve together.
Sure.
Because it tears down those walls. Every time we serve together, it's just like you were saying, the firefighters. The more we work together, the more we serve together.
Right.
The more we worship together,
That's
the more
right.
we hang out together.
Yeah.
It is not an issue.
Yes, right.
It will begin to go down
That's
and down,
right.
and the enemy is then defeated because it's like, man, we're all the same.
Yes, indeed.
We're trying to figure that out. And me and Wendell talked about the last podcast is we started out, they were nervous of us coming on to Second Mountain Zion because I just wanted to come help, but I could tell everybody like, man, what's he
Sure.
doing here? But then the last time, after 10 years, we're cooking and eating and cutting up in the backyard.
That's
Kids are
right.
playing, and that's what I told them.
I think what made them nervous was they saw how you were acting, and they thought everybody was going to be like that.
See, that ain't
Some
right.
of us are,
He thinks I'm crazy, man.
Yeah.
Lewis, I ain't that crazy.
I
I'm just
told
trying
him, I said, he ain't taking his medication. He'll be all right.
Whatever, you crazy boy.
But this is really big.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you would take the time. And when I say you, I mean you, the church,
Oh, absolutely.
in general, just would take the time to give a listen. And I think that anyone who is for what will make us better simply is wanting to see
Yeah.
change.
Yes,
Now,
absolutely.
what that avenue to get there, what that instrument will be, is obviously undetermined at this point. But change is necessary.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that just kind of put a light on it in that respect.
So let's go next level with another from both of y'all's perspective, because I'm gonna take it just a whole
That's okay.
one other level.
Okay.
One thing I hear from the white community, and I believe I know what y'all are gonna say, but I want them to hear what you're gonna say, so they don't go, well, that's just Justin saying whatever. They all come back and say, yeah, but look at them out there looting, and look at them out there tearing stuff up, and look at them doing all this kind. That ought to prove blah 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 blah. So what I have said, and I'm just want to get your take on this. Do you want me to pick the 1% out of whites that are doing stuff that's crazy and let them be that's your representative? Or do you want to look at the whole group of I think there's 40 million African Americans and black people in America. When you're talking about less than 1% are out doing that, but you're going to ignore the other 39 million plus that are doing the right thing and trying to figure it out. We don't want them to say that about us on anything, any group of people. But talk about that. That's not what you're about. That's not what you think is right, is to tear stuff up. But at the same time, how do you protest, and how do you do that in an effective way?
I'd like to say I think that as it relates to the movement, if you would, I think Dr. King made it very clear what the goal is. The goal is to initiate change and to use it by nonviolent means.
Peace. Mm-hmm.
I think anyone who is for what's right,
That's right.
will not support or embrace anyone destroying someone's property or looting or taking advantage of it for the wrong reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't support that.
Right.
I think that that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So let me be on record as saying that.
Yep.
But those people who are looking at the fact that, look at him, he took that television. That's wrong. You are looking at that. But have you considered one time what initiated that?
Mm-hmm.
Is the only thing that we're looking at the fact that they broke a window? Or are we looking at the fact that there was a reason that this was initiated to begin with? Mm-hmm. So if we could apply as much focus to the underlying cause, which is systemic and proven mistreatment, you know what I mean? And then what facilitates from there? So I don't know what the answer is. I do not think that's right. I do not support that. Mm-hmm. But those people who say, man, I'm tired of hearing about this every day. I'm tired of hearing about this every day. I really respect that. But my challenge to those who are tired of hearing about it every day, I challenge you to try living it
Amen.
every day.
That's the truth, though, man.
Yeah, try living it every day. And so, and I'm not, saying, oh, woe are we in that respect. But it's a fact that there are some challenges in our country, and race is the basis of it. And I think that we as a group of people, starting with the church, need to come up with a solution so that we can literally live as brothers in this respect, so that everyone feel validated.
Yeah,
everyone
that's
feel
good,
that they have value, and you're not undervalued. Your pulse rate should not go up any more than mine when you see police lights.
That's right.
But believe me, I'm an upstanding citizen, I guess.
No, I think your record states.
But every now and then, depending on what situation you're in, you've got to get your mind right on how you respond to this, how you act in a certain situation. So, I think the key is for us to come together, for us to love and support each other, for us to acknowledge that there are some injustices that can be addressed, and for us to look to the Lord for an answer on how to do that.
That's good. Wendell, what you got on that? But Lewis, that's strong. I love it.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to what you said, Justin, about the percentage that are doing the looting. It's not a big percentage, And what about the people that are standing there and asking or doing the peaceful protest, and they have the officers ask them, well, what can we do? Well, in one instance, they said, well, walk with us. And the sheriff said, I'll walk with you.
That's right.
And they walked a little bit and they talked. And next thing you know, their arms were interlocked just by talking. They begin to listen to each other. One talked, one listened. The other one talked, the other one listened. You got to talk this thing out, man. You know,
what's interesting is you may also remember, and the reason I agree, and I just hope and pray and will work to do it on my end. So I can't affect nobody else.
Right.
I can only do what I know what God asked me to do. And I understand, so all the listeners out there, yes, people have, well, Justin, are people really upset about it? Yes. Have white people that I know and respect and love tell me they're never going to give another dollar to our church over this? Yes. And good riddance. If that's what that takes, I can't believe that in 2020, someone who professes to be a believer in Christ, white or black,
Right.
could not see something has to be done. And by a message in love that I don't think my message last week was crazy by any stretch of my, please go back and listen and give me some feedback and go, man, maybe you should have said this different, or maybe majority of friends, and I've asked a lot of black people to African Americans, y'all please, and they're like, man, thank you, that was good, man, that helped, whatever it is. Well, I'm not saying I'm some, man, I got it figured out. I'm just saying, man, we got some work to do.
That's right.
And we've got to figure this out. So what's concerning to me is that in the grand scheme of us trying to navigate it, even just the conversation of one sermon or a couple of podcasts would make people say, I ain't doing this. That shows, just as you said, how deep the issue is.
That's right.
Because if you can't listen to someone, you can't turn on and go, man, talk to me. Let's tell me, I'm trying to figure it out. Or, Wendell, let's go eat lunch and talk again. And you can't do that. Oh, man, I don't know, man. That's where I go back. So Michael Jr. is a comedian that we brought into the church. He's a black man. One of my friends, a great dude, all right? This dude's in Dallas, and he's just phenomenal. He's a Christian comedian. He's the best. So Michael Jr. put out a video telling the story of how he had a gun put to his head by a police officer and was trying to go, hey, guys, you love me. You've had me in your churches. You think, oh, that dude's funny and whatever it is. But no, it's me too. Okay, so just so you know. But then he said, I got a solution for you. You'll like this, Wendell. So this last video, I'm going to play it Sunday in the pre-show that we do a little countdown before. He said, what if, when we talk about real change, because I want to know your input on this, because we're also trying to figure out what to do. So we know, some know there's a problem.
Yes.
What we don't know necessarily is what are the steps to resolve the problem. There's theories, and we're beginning to work through that. But one of the things they came up with was he said, what if in the police departments there was a law or a procedure that was in place that they would, and this is interesting, have to eat one meal together with someone not of their color in their neighborhood without their police uniform on, without their weapon, and that they could just have a time where the black family would say, dude, my home is open. And the white guy would say, I'm willing to sit in your home and just sit and talk. And he said, if you got 12 months, give me once a month for 10 months, 2 months off. You don't have to do it. What would happen if we just sat down and ate together? Michael Jr.'s theory is you'd go, you know what, Steve's not too bad a guy.
Oh, no.
Man, we like the same team. Man, we like the same. Now, how do you cook that? And how do you do this? So I thought, interesting. Go ahead, Louis.
And once again, within our career in the fire department, that's what we do.
That's exactly right.
We sit at the same table. You know what I mean? We bless the same food. We take turns blessing, you know what I mean? So whether it's Lord bless this meal or bless us, O Lord, for these thy gifts which we're about to receive.
Right.
Whoever it is, we literally eat together at the same table. The coolest thing, I was in the mall some time ago, and I heard someone say, Uncle Lewis. And I look, and this is blonde hair, blue-eyed daughter of one of my coworkers that we worked with for years ago.
That's
you know
awesome.
what I mean? So when she saw me, I'm Uncle Lewis. Well, how's that? It's because when you're a little girl all the way through, your dad and I work together. So he's not just my coworker. Obviously, if I'm your uncle, he was my brother.
Man, that's awesome.
You know what I mean? And so, and also I teach at Cattle Career Center.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So it's always cool to identify the tie that binds us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
As
yeah.
opposed to focusing on those things that separate us. So I think we've got to
That's good.
major on that tie that binds, and we know what that is.
So that's why I say it proves the point. I mean, I would say the same thing for us is when we ate together, serving together was part of it, but then when everybody began to eat together, so I'm going, if nothing else, take somebody to lunch.
That's right.
Just invite them to lunch. Say, man, let's go eat lunch sometime, so that you can just sit and listen. And that, because people would say, well, what can I do? I ask yourself, do you have an African American black friend? And then go, man, I would like to reach out and begin to figure out and understand, because I care about you. I want to understand. I'm seeking to understand, because y'all's jobs facilitate some of that. But for someone who doesn't have that type of job, stretch yourself a little bit. Be willing. Like, we went on a mission trip, and I interviewed the guy last week. Z, he plays baseball at Southern. He's a black young man that's just outstanding. I mean, he was one of my favorite kids on the trip. We took him to Guatemala. We went and did it, and he was the only black kid that went with us. Mm-hmm. And while we're on the trip, we were talking about it, and he said, man, I've played baseball with white kids my whole life. It don't mean nothing to me. I mean, they're my brothers. We're teammates. We're friends or whatever. So as we went through all of that, we went and then interviewed his mama. And his mama's perspective is what got me. And I don't even know if this made it on the video or not, because they were going to extend that out. She said, you'll never know, though, how I had to walk through my emotions of sending my black son with all white people out of this country when I really didn't know y'all. And she said, because I'm a believer, I got on my knees and said, God, if this is what you want, give me that peace and let me know. Well, Robin, who's our missions coordinator, a girl, a lady, she's a white lady, they connected, and it became mama to mama. So color didn't matter then. She was like, Miss Tammy, I got you, boy.
Right.
I'm going to take care of him just like he's my son. Well, that tore down a lot of walls, because it's like, it doesn't matter. We're here to love, and all of us were blessed because of that relationship, and now we're bonded at another level. And I only say that just as an illustration of time.
And
together.
When we talk color, we literally have got to, we've got to submit this through the lenses of Christ, who loves us all and gave his life for us all, and not just color alone, because we can talk about color and still have challenges. I had a friend that told a joke about this coach that came to town. He was coming into a black school, white school, and they were mixed, and they were having some challenges or whatever. But his reputation preceded him, in that they said he was, he was racist and prejudiced or whatever, pretty strong reputation. But he was trying to get away from that. So when he got all the team together, he told the guys, said, look, guys, I know what you've heard. He said, but don't worry about this. We're one team. We're going to work hard, going to have a great season, and everybody's going to be on the same page. As a matter of fact, there is no black, there is no white. We're all green. Everybody here is green. Okay, so let's go. Light green over here, dark green over there. So sometimes we look at people, but we still fail to see that we still make differences.
Oh, yeah.
When we're thinking that we are not.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can tell you, my life, and I said this about Wendell, I'll say it about you even today, Lewis, my life is only better the more I have you in it. I'm a better man. I'm a better pastor. I'm a better friend, and that's the truth.
Amen.
I need more, not less. So if somebody's confused and they're missing out.
Pastor, if there's any questions or anyone else would like to, other perspective other than our own, I'd be more than glad to extend this conversation.
Yes, and
so others who would like to have their views or share, because certainly my views are not the only ones.
Oh, sure.
But I do believe that love is the answer.
I do too.
I do believe that. I do believe that the church should take the lead.
I do believe that.
I believe that listening is the beginning.
Amen.
And dialogue is. So I believe those things for sure. And once again, which is what you're doing. Right. And so I really commend you for that. But I don't think that just because I view something one way, that's the only way to view it. Sure. So I'd be glad to have that conversation with others who might have questions or other perspectives other than our own.
That's why we like to bring you back. That's why Wendell came back, because we got to make some. And we have an email. They can email us at
podcast@thesimplechurch.tv.
That's with an S. It's plural.
No, it's not
just
plural.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, because what we learned is people were sending email to the plural and it was getting bounced back.
So it's just podcast.
So that's my fault.
Yeah, because for the longest time he kept saying plural, but so it's just podcast.
Yeah, just podcast at thesimplechurch.tv.
The reason we do that is
.tv, sorry.
so as we get those emails in, we say, "Come on back, let's hear some of their questions," because it's a way for them to do it.
Sure.
Also, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook and send a message to there, which people do as well.
Yeah, and we have an opportunity to go on the radio here. There's a local Christian radio station that has been wearing me out, wanting us to do this live at a lunch hour. So if that happens, y'all gonna be one of the first guests for sure. Because to me, that's the other side of us too. As many venues, as many avenues as possible.
Yes.
For people to see and begin to understand and dialogue. And I pray that, again, the church will begin to go, okay, we got to figure this out. We do need to lead. And that's why I love Martin Luther King Jr.'s, because, and this will be one other thing we talk about. Where are we at on time? We all right, Scott?
You're at 45 minutes.
Yeah, we got plenty of time. Well, we usually go about an hour, so we got about another 15 minutes. But let me throw this out there, because this is controversial. I'm going to talk on it a little Sunday, so this will stir them up for sure. Because this is a perception that I'd love to get y'all's input on. Tony Evans said this, so this isn't my original idea. When Tony said it, I was like, man, that's exactly right. And he used Martin Luther King Jr. as an example. Back in the day, so you go 60s or whatever, particularly with Martin Luther King Jr., the church was influencing politics. The idea was he carried his Bible. The meetings were held in churches, and then they went into the community, and then they went on the marches. But it began in prayer. It began in this honest desire to go, we have to be peaceful. We have to figure out. And there was, when I wasn't around, so when I watched the videos or I watched the movies, it's unbelievable to me, okay? I'm still living in it.
Uh-huh.
And it's still unbelievable.
Okay.
But what he said, and Tony said this, the problem, his perception is, as a black pastor in Dallas, is that it switched, that the church has become political. And we're not leading that. We're political first, and it's switched the focus. And he says, we need to go back to, we're the church, and we're not trying to make this a political battle, because politics hadn't changed it. It's not going to change. If it had changed it, it had happened a long time ago. The real issue is for us. Now, this is Dr. Tony Evans' perception. And I thought, man, I agree with that in a lot of ways, because what I hear is, well, yeah, but this side did that, or this. I'm talking about as a believer in Christ, as a follower in Jesus. So if you're not that, I understand that you don't understand. You're not going to understand.
Of course.
But if you're a believer in Christ and you are a Christian, I mean, that word can be, again, misconstrued now, because I'm not sure that everyone that uses that word really means that.
Yeah.
So I go, a Jesus follower is even another level. It has to be driven in love. It has to go back to love. It has to be peaceful.
Yes.
It has to be love your enemies. Now, again, I got in a little trouble last week because I told them, if you don't like it, then you need to go find somewhere else. And somebody came back and that might have been a little strong. And I'm like, well, it might have been, but also I don't want to be misconstrued as being, well, I'm a little light on this issue. It's not that big a deal. When I'm going, no, if there's ever been a big deal, this is a big deal.
It is a big deal, but yet we, by the grace of God, the Holy Spirit has put different people at different places. Mm-hmm. So it's really a growth. It's a process.
Yeah.
Even amongst the best of us, you know what I mean.
Right.
So there are people who are good people who are literally doing what they can as far as the cause of Christ in many areas, but are growing in this particular area.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So,
Sure.
And maybe not, I know you didn't mean hit the road, Jack, type of thing in that respect, but we all have our challenges,
Sure.
whatever that might be. So mine might be in this area, one is in that area. So this is an area in which some people are growing or have some challenges. So I think that the movement is shining light in that respect. Michael Jackson talks about the importance of looking at are starting with the man in the mirror.
man in the mirror.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've got to be honest with me. Where am I with this particular what's my position on what's going on? So a lot of people, their intention is not to be bad or not to be against this or that, but it takes some growth, and so that's why I have to pray with each other and move together for those who are not quite where we are.
You might should have talked to me before last week's message.
But you know
well,
what I mean?
yeah, I do, and I guess my strong delivery on that one particular issue is what happened was. Let me give you a little history on that, Lewis, because it'll be. We have a greeter, black man, friend of mine, and he was sharing his stories of how people would mistreat him, even in the church as they walked in. They would greet the white guy, and the other white greeter would break his heart. Like, I'm sorry, man, and he like, I can't change that person or whatever. And so I was like, look, if you can't work on this or be willing to work on this and have a desire, then you've been here a while. You're coming. I mean, what's going on now?
Sure.
So you're right. I'm working on it. So, you know, I'm not going to say I would apologize for it. I'm saying that I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe, and here's the reason why. I'm a white guy. And I think they misconstrue when I go, well, yeah, I probably, they're like, he's really, and I'm like, no. Mm-hmm. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying.
No doubt.
Like, no, it's wrong. And I don't like it.
That's
and
right.
I'm not going to put up with it if I see it, and I ain't going to stand for it when I hear it.
No doubt.
So don't be misconstrued. But do I need to love you in that process? Yes. And you better pray that Jesus helps me because I ain't good at it.
That's right.
So I'm working on it.
But that's what he specializes in.
Yes, that's exactly
doing
right.
those things that we cannot.
Amen.
You know,
Thank
which is
Jesus.
nothing without him.
Amen.
You know.
You're right.
I think people are quick to speak out on certain issues, but when it comes to people being done wrong because of the color of their skin, people kind of stand back and they don't really say anything.
Yeah.
When you're silent about it, it only makes that problem bigger.
Yeah.
And the person that's being done wrong, it make them feel that you're good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't say anything. You're
Yeah.
good with it.
Well, and I think if there's any encouragement or any hope that I see is in the generations that are behind me, my kids and the kids behind me.
Man.
I think they're going, no,
That's right.
we done with this.
That's
so,
right.
I mean, we got to keep pushing, and
That's
we got to
right.
keep trying to go for, and it's going to be rough because I think there's going to be powers that are in place that are going to make that difficult.
That's right.
But anything worth.
The young people are speaking out, and have a guy that I see daily, and we had a talk. We were talking, and he said, man, my parents, he said, I grew up in a house, and he said, I'm not going to say my parents were racist, but he said, I just grew up, and we just kind of looked at it as, white people mingle together and black people mingle together, but he has a son now. This guy has a son that stands up to him and said, that ain't right. Mm-hmm. He said, that ain't right, and your beliefs are wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had some people talk about that this week with us too, that were on the positive side. We're going, man, the parents, for example, may have thought differently, but their kids have brought in friends of different colors, and it is changing the parents' opinion. Mm-hmm. And then as they're coming through, they're working through that and going, man, maybe I am wrong. And the kids are actually teaching the adults, and I'm going, hey, whatever works, man, whatever we got to do.
It was always interesting to me for everyone to know, or it's important to me that everyone knew that those things that are important to you, they're important to me. Mm-hmm. The fact that my children would be decent and get their education, that's important to me.
Yep.
The fact that they would be raised in the fear and the admonition of the Lord, that's important to me.
Yep.
That they would do what's right and respect each other, that's important to me.
Right.
So we find that decency doesn't have a color. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So if you are a lazy bum, that's just what you are.
That's right.
Doesn't matter what color you are.
Yeah.
It's not because you are a white guy. It's not because you're a black guy. It's because you don't work, because you won't do what's right. You won't do those things that add value to you or that is required of us.
That's right.
So, but those things that are important, they're important. But to live peaceably is important to me. Mm-hmm. To not have to live in fear of one group or another, that's important to me. and really it's important to you, but you have not had that experience. So unless we've had that experience, it's difficult to be able to speak to it.
Man, that's good.
It's difficult to be able to speak, to even imagine. Scott, could you imagine what it's like to know that when you're driving your car, that there's a possibility that you're going to be pulled over for no other reason other than the fact that you're blind, other than the fact that you have you have on a blue shirt, or the color of your skin. Who would think that?
I know.
No, I mean, I definitely wouldn't know what that's like at all because of the color of my skin. So, but that's why this is a gut check for a lot of people like me, because I didn't realize it.
And others would deny it. So, no, that doesn't happen. That happened back in the 80s. That happened back in the 70s. No, it does happen. Mm-hmm. It does happen, and it doesn't matter what your education is. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is. It's a reality that you have to learn to deal with.
Yeah, that's what I
in
heard
that respect.
from another NFL guy I recently heard, trying to help his teammates and different people understand, very well respected, that their conversation to go along with that was that they figured out that they should put their alma mater on their license plate. You know how you'll have a little license plate cover or a little ring around it that say LSU alumni or Northwestern alumni or whatever. In their locker rooms, I heard this recently, like 2 weeks ago, that he said, this is what we all discuss as black men. Hey, man, did you get your alumni thing on there yet? And so some of the rookies are saying, man, why do I do that? He said, because when you get pulled over, if that policeman looks and goes, man, I like that school, or maybe this man's educated, it might save your life. I could not believe that is what they're thinking and what they're having to go through. And it broke my heart. I'm going, that's a real conversation happening in NFL locker rooms and in college locker rooms to go, it's a step. And then he went the next level and said, if I go out into public, because he's a strong, big black man.
Sure.
He says, I put on glasses and I bring a book satchel when I go into any other places. And the interviewer said, no, I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand. He said, because it makes me look smarter, at least to that person that may not like me.
Less threatening.
And and I'm going, I gotta hear that. I need to hear that. I need to understand. Just like you're saying, you need to know that that's the way you feel, and that's the fear you've had for your kids or for your life that we don't. And so that's why today's important, and the more we talk and the more that comes out there, it helps everyone understand a little bit more what the reality is of going on. One last question, because I appreciate all that, but because you're in the academy, is there any, and we could come back again for a whole topic on this.
No problem.
But what training, and both of you, Wendell, you can add in anything, do you think needs to be implemented, or do you think there's anything, because right now you went through the fire academy and you had friends that were probably in the police academy.
Absolutely.
How many hours are spent on diversity training? Or is it looked down upon when it happens? Like, oh, I got to go in here. Because I remember going to school, and there's some classes I'd go, this is a joke.
Right.
And how do you believe that's going on? Do you believe that can be changed? What do you think that looks like moving forward as another real opportunity to change some of the things that we're experiencing?
I do leadership training. And when I do leadership training, I'll go into different companies and you talk about leadership, the supervisors and that type of thing. And oftentimes companies want to know, I really want to get the most out of my company. I want it to be the best that it can be. What is your advice? And the advice is, if you want to have a good company, then hire good people. And I know that sounds simple, but hire good people. Okay. And we find that as it relates to diversity training, everyone does it now, sensitivity training. And I'm proud to say that now sensitivity training is a requirement that you get in the process. It used to be after you beat up someone. It used to be after you have a situation that shows that you were insensitive. Now you need sensitivity training. And so to answer your question, I don't know if there is a prescribed, well, if you need 8 hours of this or you need 2 weeks of that, in that respect. But it does have to be a part of a component of the curriculum where we recognize that you are now moving into an area that's not every day.
Yeah.
You're dealing with, and just the job itself, I think, is the greatest sensitivity training.
Yes.
And that as a firefighter, what communities did you go into?
All communities.
What type of people did you deal with?
All type people.
Straight?
Yep.
Gay?
Yes.
Black?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Poor?
Yes.
The job itself lends itself to something that others don't deal with every day.
Yeah.
So as a firefighter, that was the coolest thing as a young man or woman. When that bell rings, I don't have a clue what the next run is going to be.
It's true.
Shooting, car wreck, cat in the tree. You see what I'm saying? It's going to be in Spring Lake, going to be in Cedar Grove, it's going to be Timberline. We don't know where we're going. We don't know who we're going to. We don't know what their emergency is, but they called us because they need help.
Yep.
And when we get there, it matters not
Amen.
who they are, where they are, what color they are. And police officers do the same.
Yep.
Police officers go into every community in our cities,
That's
and
right.
they've seen things that other people have not seen.
That's right.
I know that I've gone into places like, man, people really live like this?
Right.
People really live like this? You know, people really do this? Well, that's what we do. So we see everything, we do everything. So I think instead of the training, it's just a matter of the heart for the most part, just like teaching is not for everyone. Mm-hmm. Okay, everyone is not going to be a painter. Everyone should not be a police officer. Everyone should not be a firefighter.
Yep.
So if I don't have a heart for service, I'm not going to say if I don't have biases, because we all do, but if my biases will prevent me from treating you with respect and doing the right thing toward you, then that's not the right profession for me. So every opportunity for training, training is obviously important to me. We say every day is a training day. Mm-hmm. And so it should be ongoing.
That's
it definitely
good.
should be ongoing, but exactly what it entails or how it entails, I'm a big training guy. I hope to cash in on it. Okay. But is that what it's about? Training is going to be very, very important, but sensitivity, hiring the right people on the front end, making sure we've got the right people in, and then continuing it, I think ongoing is important.
And that's why we got to have some money.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to be able to hire. I mean, that's the other part of it to me is like they're underpaid, firemen and policemen. So it's like the more money, number one, it's a good career that gives people a chance to do it. But the reason I say that, there's one guy I talked to, Ernie and Joe, Crisis Cops, is a HBO documentary on the mental health side of policing.
Oh, my.
And San Antonio has come up with a different training. And they actually created in the police department a mental health division to help both day and night shifts, because they realize that it's a big issue. Well, the one thing Joe said, and we're trying to bring him in, I'm trying to get him at the academy. I'm trying to bring with state police, I talk state police. We're trying to get some other, like a successful company. San Antonio Police Department has saved their city $50 million by creating this one this one division in their.
Can you tell me how they saved it? You mean as it relates to lawsuits or
lawsuits?
Okay.
Yes.
Liability. Okay.
Yes. So part of the reason I'm saying that is I'm trying to, which is they need my job, but I'm trying to go, how can I help? And that's why I'm listening to you. Number one is hiring the right people, but he says the same thing. If you have not empathy, if you can't get on the scene and go, man, that could be my mom.
That's right.
My sister.
That's right.
That's where we got to work on. We got to
and
walk
you can still be tough.
That's exactly right.
You're still a good police officer. You're still a tough firefighter.
Right.
But you've got to care about people.
And his whole point was, and this is why, it'll just be interesting dialogue, and as we begin to carry that out, is he said sometimes people will accuse just anything. Well, you don't have good tactics. You don't have this. You don't do that. He's like, well, I can come back at you the same way. It's like, look where you are with your tactics. Look where it's gotten us.
Yeah.
Look at we have to change. We have to figure something out.
That's right.
To be able to meet in the middle, to go, we're not doing good. We need to get better, and we're going to get better. So that's where I'm trying to. That's why I was asking specifically. Wendell, anything you want to add on that, and then we'll wrap it up. I know we've kept you longer than you probably want. Lewis, like, man, I got training to do. I got more things to do, baby. I got to get out of here.
Not at all.
Yeah, and in closing, man, I just want to say that, like Lewis said earlier, and Michael Jackson did that song long years ago, and that song, it sounded good, and it had a message.
Yep.
You got to start with the man in the mirror.
Yeah.
When you look in the mirror, you see yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that's what we have to do, man. And we've like I said last week, you know, and the first step into overcoming something, you got to first admit that it does exist.
Yeah.
You can't be in denial.
Yeah.
And I talked about love, real love last week, and you know, and when it's genuine, it's not hard to do, man.
Yep.
It's not hard to do.
Dude, I love y'all. Thank you.
We love you too, and
Yeah, thank you so
and we
much.
just need to continue to pray for our leaders.
Absolutely.
Pray for our church leaders. Pray for our community. So,
Yes.
while seeking the avenue, prayer is always the answer. So we don't
Amen.
want to minimize that.
Absolutely.
We don't want to look so hard that we overlook the most
The
important
obvious.
thing and the obvious in that respect.
Absolutely.
The Simple Church is awesome to do this. I cannot stress
man.
that, and it is. Trust me, and I say that because look around and see how many people are, how many churches are, and as President Kennedy said, why not? If we're not at least doing this, then what are we doing?
Right.
You know, so I want to commend you. I'm not blowing smoke. I really commend you. I commend the church for having the vision to at least initiate conversation.
Well, we're honored to
that's
have
a great
you.
job.
We're honored to have you. and
What
you-
I tell you, man.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
legit. That's what
Oh,
it
yeah.
is. Straight legit. And the thing is I can't wait to learn more from you. I can't
understand.
wait to develop that relationship and be a better man as a result of it. I know Wendell, I said that has made me a better man.
I understand.
And Lewis, you're gonna make me a better man. So thank you.
And you and me as well.
Yeah.
Make sure you tell John that we talked.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna call him when I get out and go like, man, you better listen to this podcast, man. Your partner's on there. Our friends are on there.
That's
You
right.
You did a little better than
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah, you did
Ozark.
better.
Hey, now just one firefighter thing. I did get in the firebox.
Oh, really? Now?
Flash over, yeah.
Flashover box. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I had. They did put me in there and let me burn in that
Okay.
thing.
You thought you was in the fiery furnace, didn't
Yeah,
you?
but you know what? I was calm, man. I didn't blow through my air like some of them rookies in there did.
Yeah,
Right.
they was-
I knew already going in, Lewis. I
Nervous.
said, look, I just gotta. And then, the old equipment at Bossier Fire Department, I was picking with Brad. There was a couple of little weak spots in there, and it felt like it was burning
It would
through.
find it.
It was finding it.
The heat would find
You
it.
know, Jeff Robertson, some of the other guys are in there. I was like, man, this is next level. So I respect you and thank you for what you've done in serving our community
we thank
too,
God.
and risking your lives, both of you.
All ability comes
You know,
from him.
that's it. And I am thankful you guys, served in the way you have. Much respect, much love.
Thanks for having us on today.
No problem, man. All right, guys, that's the podcast this time. Scott, you got anything?
No, I'm just like kind of digesting everything.
You got to
I got a lot to unpack. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Well, make sure you email us if you want questions because we'd
Yeah.
love to have them back and answer your questions.
Send
So-
me a DM. That'd
That's
be direct
exactly-
message. for
Yeah, I don't
those
even know what
don't
that means, but that sounds good.
Slide into
Oh,
my
man.
DM.
Yeah. All right, dude. Till next time.
Peace.
Peace, my
Take care.
brothers.
Thank you.